For the most part, when someone thinks of a superhero, they recall the good they have done. I mean, Captain America punched Hitler in the face. We could just stop there. No need to mention the countless lives saved and the number of times mass destruction has been averted by people running around in form-fitting onesies. So, would it be fair to say that superheroes and good go together like tea and biscuits? No. Every once in a while, a new villain will emerge to take on our favourite heroes. They may evolve over long periods of time to become anti-heroes, but in some cases a character is too interesting to just put on the bad guy pile. When this happens, they can shift and transform before our very eyes. It could have been the plan all along, or it could be something a new writer or artist decided to try out. Typically it works rather well, but when it happened years ago, it's easy to forget that some of the best heroes from DC and Marvel comics didn't start out that way. I'm not talking about anti-heroes who only sometimes help out here, so the likes of Namor and Venom won't be popping up. Instead, this list will be concentrating on those baddies who went on to become goodies. Intro done? It's time to say greetings! I'm Sally from WhatCulture.com, and here are 10 superheroes who started out as villains.
Before we go any further though, this video is brought to you by Surfshark. What's Surfshark, I hear you ask?
What's Surfshark?
Surfshark is a VPN, that is a virtual private network that basically helps to keep all the private stuff that you want to remain safe, private and safe. Online privacy, data encryption and all that. But, and this is the best part, you can even change location so you can watch content from other countries. So maybe you want to watch some American Netflix. Howdy partner, want to watch new episodes of 90 Day Fiancé? Or maybe you want to go to Australia. G'day mate, how about watch some Aussie Hulu with a bloody kangaroo? Or even...
Hey, we get it.
In all seriousness though, it really is great. And maybe if you're travelling somewhere and you're British and you want to watch good old BBC iPlayer, you can do that as well. I think I broke it. Plus, with our promo code, you get 83% off and 3 months free. The link is in the description and the promo code is, of course, WhatCulture. Find out more at surfshark.com, and if you're not happy, there's even a 30-day money-back guarantee. Thanks to Surfshark, and now, back to the video.
Number 10. Hawkeye. Everyone knows that Hawkeye is a good guy, and if your only information about him stems from the MCU, there's no way you would know otherwise. As it happens, old Clint Barton began life in Marvel Comics via Tales of Suspense issue 57, where he was, drumroll, a villain. Fortunately, he didn't remain that way for too long, so it's not unusual to gloss over this detail about his backstory. His 2 subsequent appearances in Tales of Suspense issues 60 and 64 continued his villainous streak. His road to becoming a bad guy came when he met Black Widow while she was working as a spy for the Soviet Union. He fell in love with her and he fell hard, his attachment leading him to do some illegal things like lending his bow to Black Widow's interests in stealing Stark technology and participating in a touch of international espionage. When the irresistible spy was injured soon after, Hawkeye realized he wasn't on the right side of things, and he set his sights on becoming an Avenger. A bullseye he eventually hit when in Avengers issue 16, the team was reformed under Captain America's leadership. Number 9. Rogue. If you only know Rogue through the movies or X-Men the animated series, you may not know this gal quite as well as you think. When Rogue was first introduced in the pages of Avengers Annual, issue number 10, she was a villainous member of the Brotherhood of Mutants. But in a backstory only clarified relatively recently, a young Rogue finds herself scared and isolated due to her mutation's famous ability to sap powers and life out of people. Mystique, at the advice of Destiny the Precog, seeks Rogue out, taking her under her wing as a daughter. But things go from wholesome to horrific, however, when our Rogue joins her mother Mystique in the ranks of the Brotherhood of Mutants. Soon after joining, she is sent on a mission to absorb the powers of Miss Marvel, an objective she accomplishes with disturbing permanence. In scenes you'd now be surprised to see, Rogue tosses Miss Marvel's body off the Golden Gate Bridge, then heads out to battle the Avengers, imbued with her new set of butt-kicking powers. Later, along with Mystique, Destiny, and Hybrid, Rogue attacks Rom the Space Knight, and after absorbing his nobility, the goodness in her is triggered. Struggling with her sanity, she turns to the X-Men for help, and as is the way of our warm-hearted Professor X, is taken in as one of their own. It's strange to remember that for a good chunk of time there, our lovable Rogue wasn't a hero, but quite the formidable villain. Number 8. Black Widow. When Natasha Romanova made her first appearance in the pages of Tales of Suspense, issue number 52, she was the Russian spy Madame Natasha. Her purpose in the early days was as a recurring antagonist to Iron Man. 5 issues later, we saw her step up her game by recruiting Hawkeye. Romanova grew up in Stalingrad and was educated by her nation to be a top-tier spy. She was trained to become a sniper, a martial artist, and a spy capable of infiltrating her nation's enemies. While she wasn't considered a villain in her native land, she was absolutely one in the United States. In her early appearances, she wore clothes more fit for box seats than a brawl, but it wasn't long before the USSR supplied her with her first Black Widow costume. As well as looking the part, it came with some high-tech weaponry, making her all the more effective against Iron Man. Injured in an attempt to take down the metal-clad Tony Stark, a deflected demolition blast loosed from Hawkeye's bow would be the catalyst that would see her eventually defect from the USSR. When the KGB learned of her intent, they gunned her down, succeeding only in pushing her closer to becoming the Avenger we all know today. Number 7. Falcon. The Falcon made his first appearance in Captain America, issue 117, making him the first African-American superhero in comics. In the MCU, Sam Wilson was always a good guy, but things didn't start out that way in the comics. In an unsurprising revelation, considering the title of this list, Sam Wilson wasn't a hero initially. Instead, he was a criminal and gang member who called himself Snap Wilson, a persona created when his parents were murdered, causing him to be consumed by his anger at the world around him. Just to note, he wasn't a supervillain or anything like that, but he wasn't a law-abiding citizen either. Eventually, he boarded a plane to Rio de Janeiro for a big score, a plane that crashed on Exile Island, the island where Wilson found Red Wing, the Falcon he formed a strong bond with. In a plot to kill Captain America, Red Skull uses the cosmic cube to alter reality, and Sam's world is changed, making it possible for Wilson to have a mental link with birds and removing his memories of his Snap persona. Wilson and Cap would go on to become friends, fighting the Exiles and the Red Skull. From that point on, Sam Wilson would forever be the superhero known as Falcon. Number 6. Deadpool. Deadpool is arguably one of the greatest characters Rob Liefeld has ever created whilst working at Marvel Comics, but he didn't make him into a purely heroic superhero. When the Merc with a Mouth first arrived in the pages of the New Mutants, issue 98, he wasn't fighting for the good guys. Of course, he wasn't necessarily evil at this time either. He was, after all, a mercenary. He didn't just pick up his nickname because he liked the alliteration. He took money to do pretty much whatever came his way. If this meant fighting for the good guys, that was fine, but it also meant he fought for the bad guys as well. When Deadpool first showed up, he was taking cash from Tolliver to attack Cable and the New Mutants. Over time, we saw him move away from bad guy benefactors and grow into a much more heroic character. Deadpool, however, is still not 100% a good guy, but he's not exactly evil, and couldn't really be called a villain. Let's just say he's an anti-hero everybody likes having on their side, and to give him his due, he does try super hard to be a good guy, most of the time. Number 5. Plastic Man. Before he was Plastic Man, Patrick Eel O'Brien was a small-time crook. He spent most of his time as a burglar who specialised in safecracking, and Eel didn't have any illusions of being a good guy. But that all changed one fateful night. While working a job at the Crawford Chemical Works, Eel was shot in the shoulder and doused in a strange chemical liquid. He escaped capture, but his crew abandoned him and he went on the lam. However, the wound and chemicals messed him up pretty good and he passed out in the woods outside the city. When he awoke, he was being cared for by a monk who sensed goodness in him enough to turn the police away when they came looking. Witnessing this act of kindness fundamentally changed Eel to try to become a good guy. His buddies abandoning him didn't hurt the process either. During his recovery at the monastery, Eel discovered his new superpowers and that his body had taken on the properties of rubber. Determined to make good on his promise to change, he abandoned his Eel O'Brien identity and became the superhero known to the world as Plastic Man. Number 4. Vision. It's odd to think of Vision as anything but a superhero, but that's not how things were in the beginning. Ultron created Vision for the express purpose of taking down Ultron's creator, Dr. Hank Pym, and his wife, Janet Van Dyne. To this end, Ultron sent Vision to lead the Avengers into a trap. Vision made his first appearance against the world's mightiest heroes in Avengers 57, and he was definitely not a good guy. Unfortunately for Ultron, he wasn't really a bad guy either. It's just that he wasn't really aware of anything beyond his creator at first. When he finally made contact with the Avengers, it didn't take long for the team to convince the Synthezoid to turn on his master. Once it was explained to Vision how he was created, using the brain patterns of the then deceased Simon Williams / Wonder Man, he was more than happy to turn on Ultron. By the next issue, Vision joined the team to become the newest member of the Avengers, so he wasn't a villain for long. Still, he was initially created for evil, but thanks to the Avengers' willingness to talk first and fight second, he had the chance to find out for himself. Number 3. Big Barda. Big Barda is one of those characters who absolutely should be a bad guy. After all, she was literally raised to be evil as the leader of Apocalypse's female Furies. That collection of warrior women was the fiercest the Nightmare world had to offer, and their leader was no hero. Everything was working out well for the villainous Big Barda, but when she led her people on a raid, she met Scott Free, Darkseid's adopted son. She was immediately enamored with the man with goodness in his heart, and from that moment forward, Big Barda changed. She helped Scott escape Apocalypse, but wasn't strong enough to leave herself. That departure would come later, and when she left, she headed for Earth. Soon after arriving, she found Scott, who was working as a famous escape artist named Thaddeus Brown, otherwise known as Mr. Miracle. The two built a relationship, fell in love, and got married, and Big Barda became a superhero. Over the years, she has been a member of the Birds of Prey and the Justice League. Never returning to her roots, she continued to serve as a hero, until her death at the hands of Infinity Man. Number 2. Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch. Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch are paired in a single entry due to the fact that they are pretty much inseparable. The mutant twins have been together for most of their history, so why separate them now? Both characters made their debut appearance as villains in the X-Men issue 4. From the beginning, they were shown to be founding members of the Brotherhood of Mutants, and in their first appearance, they fought against the X-Men. Still, they were shown to be reluctant villains who weren't fully supporting of Magneto's radical ideologies, but that didn't mean they weren't dangerous. Fortunately, they wouldn't remain on the bad guys' side for long. When Stan Lee decided to shake things up with the Avengers issue number 16, he filled the team with reformed villains from other series. From that point forward, both Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch have been superheroes. At times, they have become involved in various events that caused some problems for the folks around them, but they never returned to a life of supervillainy ever again. Number 1. The Silver Surfer. The Silver Surfer has one of the most interesting backstories in Marvel Comics because he didn't start out as a good guy or a bad guy. He was just a regular fellow living on Zenlar when Galactus found his world. To save his planet, the Zenlarvian bargained with the World Devourer. In exchange for sparing his home world, Norrin Radd agreed to become the Herald of Galactus and was transformed into the Silver Surfer. At this time, he could be considered to be neutral, and for a long time he found only uninhabited worlds for his master to consume. But that wasn't something he could continue forever. He eventually began taking Galactus to worlds filled with sentient beings, and while he may have done so reluctantly, he took part in numerous genocides across the cosmos. When he led his master to Earth, he arrived as a villain, ready to sacrifice the life he had found there to appease his master. Fortunately, he was reminded of his humanity. Zenlanity? Well, either way, he was swayed by the people he met, and he turned on his master. From that point on, the Silver Surfer became a superhero on Earth and across the cosmos. So that was 10 superheroes who started out as villains. I've been Sally from WhatCulture.com, and you have been the audience, the whole audience, and a brilliant one at that. Who else do you think started out on the wrong road? Leave your comments down below, and a big thank you to all you subscribers and like button bashers. Have an awesome day, my lovelies, and I'll see you again soon.